And welcome back to Hannity. There is a disturbing news report tonight from the Fars news agency that Russian President Vladimir Putin has accepted an invitation to visit Tehran to discuss the Islamic regime's nuclear program. That's right, the same man that our commander-in-chief just made a deal with regarding Syria is possibly heading for talks with the rogue regime in Iran to talk about the development of nuclear weapons. Pretty unbelievable. So how's the White House going to respond to this one? Here with reaction to this disturbing report, radio talk show host Dana Loesch and Democratic strategist Eboni Williams. Let me get this straight, Dana. So the same Syria, Vladimir Putin, that guy, that threatened to shoot our missiles down if we in fact fired them in Syria, that is offering protection to Tehran for their nuclear facilities, the same guy that called Kerry a liar and enjoys embarrassing Obama on the national stage, now they're going to Tehran and no problem with that?
Apparently so, Sean. That seems to be the case, especially with what I find interesting too is in the president's interview on Sunday morning, he indicated that he's already been having some sort of informal discussions with the new Iranian president, and they were at least kind of making a little bit of headway on this whole discussion of the nuclear program in Iran. And now here you have Vladimir Putin, who's just going to ride in and either save the day or mean girl-like form an alliance with the new Iranian president ahead of all of the president's work. I mean, it is troubling indeed. It's troubling because we left a void and Vladimir Putin has stepped in to kind of put himself in a position of power as the force to be reckoned with in that part of the world.
Do you not see this, Ebony, as saber rattling by Vladimir Putin, that if we fire cruise missiles in Syria, he's going to take them out of the air? And by the way, he's going to provide a defense system so that we can't take out Iran's nuclear facilities. You don't think that, do you think going into business with this guy is a good idea?
No, I don't think going into business with him is a good idea at all, Sean, and I don't like anything about Vladimir Putin's approach. I don't know that I think that there was a void left by the way that things ended in Syria in terms of the U.S.'s stance. I think everybody involved has an interest in diplomacy if it's possible. But as the president said, to Dana's point on his Sunday morning interviews, let's not take the wrong message from us failing, not going in with those missiles in Syria. The message isn't that we were being weak. The message is that we had a credible threat, and it was responded to by diplomatic, negotiation. That's the message.
Dana?
Yeah, I think I would disagree with that, because if we were so interested with diplomacy, we would have spent the past 2 years worried about diplomacy and focusing on diplomacy instead of just deciding to act a week after the last chemical weapons attack.
Well, Ebony, why, if that's the case, why did the president draw a red line that he's now allowing till mid-2014 to be crossed probably again and again? And number two, what about the regime change that he called for that now is, I guess, pushed to the wayside?
Well, I think the red line was, again, in order to have a successful diplomatic negotiation, guys, we all know you have to have a real, viable, credible threat in the first place. Otherwise, there's no vested interest in the negotiations in the first place.
Planned?
So that's what our president did.
You really believe this was planned? Or did they get backed into a corner and then Vladimir came to the rescue with his hammer and sickle?
I think I heard that there was no credible threat just then.
I don't think about that.
I think I heard there was no credible threat just then, which I would agree with. I would agree that there's no immediate threat to United States interest.
All right. So
I don't know that I would disagree with that, Dana, but I do believe that both Putin and Syria believed that the U.S. did indeed pose a credible threat to both of them, and that is why they were even interested in the negotiations in the first place. Without the president taking us to that point, guys, I don't think that we would have been in a position to negotiate and have any type of diplomacy at all.
Dana?
Was it the president or was it John Kerry? Because it seemed as though they've been having this very passive-aggressive slap fight in the headlines, and then Bill Clinton just weighed in the other day. Does it matter whose idea it was? Well, apparently it does to Putin. No. He's just going to go ahead and claim all the credit. Again, there was a vacuum that was left because we fumbled the ball.
Ebony?
I don't think we fumbled the ball, but I do agree that no one, amongst the three of us, we don't want to be crediting Vladimir Putin. I don't think that it's
I hate to say
in any way
Ebony, let me just say something. Vladimir Putin, when he called Kerry a liar, when Kerry was saying that the rebels were more moderate, that's not true. I mean, we learned this week that the vast majority of those rebels are al-Qaeda-linked, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda-linked terrorists. And even the more, quote, moderate Free Syrian Army, still their brigadier general talked about Israel being their enemy. Why would we arm them? Why would we arm the Muslim Brotherhood? Do those things disturb you?
Yes, that does disturb me, Sean. I'm serious. I don't feel like we should be arming them. I am personally very concerned with the intent behind Putin's meeting with the new Iranian president. Now, I get that it's a new administration in Iran, right? Perhaps there is a more vested interest there in doing something diplomatic. That's why, as Dana said, the president is also making some inroads there, trying to open up that dialogue with that president as well.
Dana,
but this is not a time for any of us to be naive.
How is the world viewing this? Are they seeing America backed into a corner and then capitulating to Putin and ceding ground to him? What is this? What is the lasting effect of this? Do we embolden our enemies? What message do we send to them, and do we send to our friends?
That we're all bark and no bite. That's the sort of message, and that we seem to kind of pick the wrong side every conflict there is. I remember when the president was backing a dictator in Honduras, and then we stumbled into Egypt, and Mubarak. Yes, he was a secular SOB, but he didn't pose an immediate threat to the United States. Then we ended up stumbling into Libya. Now it's the same thing with Iran. I mean, this keeps happening in Syria. This keeps happening over and over again. I just wish for 1 second that we did a little bit to lay some groundwork, Sean. It seems like we're toddler stomping into everything.
Yeah. All right, guys. Good to see you both. Appreciate it. And thank you both.
Thanks.